Step out of the vehicle. Hands up, now.
What's going on, officer? What's the problem?
This vehicle's coming back stolen. Exit the car, now.
No, there's a mistake. This is my car. I bought it from the dealership 3 days ago. Ma'am, I'm telling you for the last time. If you don't get out right now, I'll have to remove you by force. The body camera recorded every word. The dash cam captured every movement. And what happened next wasn't going to be a misunderstanding. It was going to expose a pattern, end a career, cost the city millions of dollars, and throw the truth they'd been denying for years right back in their faces, on camera. Judge Diane Matthews was heading to the federal courthouse in downtown Phoenix that Tuesday morning at 8:47. She was 42 years old. She'd been a federal judge for 6 years, and throughout her career, she'd personally managed dozens of cases centered on allegations of police misconduct. She was respected in the courtroom, known for fair rulings, and recognized in legal circles as a judge who relied on evidence over emotion, on files over rhetoric. Diane's life had never been easy. She grew up in a poor neighborhood in Atlanta. Her mother was a cleaning woman, her father a construction worker. She graduated high school with honors and got a full scholarship to Emory University Law School. After graduation, she worked as a prosecutor for 10 years, specializing in organized crime and police corruption cases. She'd turned not backing down into a reflex, not just a stance. 6 years ago, when she was appointed as a federal judge, she was the youngest federal judge in Phoenix. As a black woman, being a federal judge in the Southwest was still an exception. In her early years, some lawyers underestimated her. Some cops disrespected her rulings. But each time, Diane responded with the law, with evidence, and with unwavering commitment to justice. That Tuesday morning, she was heading to an important hearing, a major civil rights case against the Phoenix Police Department. The lawsuit alleged that the department systematically targeted Black and Latino drivers, unjustly stopped them, and conducted searches. Diane was presiding over this case. The numbers, the cameras, and the witnesses all said the same thing. This wasn't coincidence. 3 days earlier, Diane had bought herself a new car. The Toyota Camry she'd driven for 15 years had finally given up. It had 312,000 kilometers on it. The engine was leaking oil, and the air conditioning didn't work. A federal judge's salary paid well, about $210,000 a year. Diane lived frugally, controlled her spending, and regularly invested in her retirement account. But after 15 years, she decided to buy herself something nice. When she walked into the BMW showroom, she noticed the expression on the salespeople's faces. Doubt, surprise, mild condescension. A black woman in a luxury car store wasn't seen as a serious buyer. The first salesperson tried to steer her toward the used section. The second mentioned affordable financing options. The third finally listened. Diane wanted a fully loaded BMW 540i, metallic dark blue, leather interior, premium sound system, security package, $68,500. She'd pay cash. The salesperson's face changed. He ran a credit check. Perfect 820 credit score. He verified the bank transfer. The money was there. In the state of Arizona, the process for new vehicle purchases works like this. Permanent plates are mailed by the Motor Vehicle Division within 7 to 10 business days. During this time, buyers receive a temporary registration document, a paper document showing the vehicle is legally registered to you, valid for 45 days. The dealership attaches a sticker to the rear window showing the temporary plate's expiration date. This wasn't extraordinary. It was ordinary. A procedure repeated thousands of times every day in Arizona. Diane's temporary registration document sat prominently on the front dashboard. Her name, the VIN number, and the expiration date, each clear enough to leave no room for misunderstanding. The dealership's temporary plate sticker was on the rear window. The first 2 days were almost disturbingly flawless for Diane. She loved her new car. Smooth suspension, powerful engine, luxurious interior. After 15 years of driving a car she'd sacrificed for, this felt like a reward she'd earned. That Tuesday morning, she left her house at 8:30, as usual. She wore a classic black suit, white shirt, prepared with a professional appearance for court. In her bag were case files, laptop and identification cards, federal judge ID, driver's license, credit cards, passport, just in case, documents she always carried. Diane had learned to carry these documents for years. Being a black woman in America meant constantly having to prove herself. This wasn't paranoia. This was a learned survival reflex. Her grandmother had taught her, her mother had reinforced it, and her own experiences had confirmed it. At 8:42, she was driving on a wide avenue on the east side of Phoenix. She was right at the speed limit, 55 in a 55 zone. She wasn't changing lanes, wasn't running red lights, wasn't violating any traffic rules. She saw headlights in her rearview mirror. A black and white police car pulled up behind her, closer than normal, not maintaining distance deliberately. Diane's stomach involuntarily clenched, a familiar feeling. She hadn't done anything wrong, but she was still worried. The police car stayed behind her for 3 blocks. The headlights never dimmed. Diane checked her speed, still 55, checked her signal usage. Everything was correct. Checked the car's operation, no problems. Then the red and blue lights started flashing. Diane signaled, slowed down, and pulled into a shopping center parking lot. She turned off the engine, rolled the window all the way down, and kept both hands visibly on the steering wheel. She placed her phone on the dashboard and started recording. By habit, Officer Brad Hutchins was 34 years old. He'd been with the Phoenix Police Department for 8 years. White, average height, with a confident demeanor. He saw himself as a good cop who trusted his instincts, keeping the streets clean, catching suspects, protecting the community. What Brad didn't notice was his own bias, an automatic way of thinking that found certain people in certain cars wrong. Black woman, expensive car, something must be wrong. Brad was approaching the vehicle while checking Diane's plates. The system showed the vehicle was still registered to the dealership. The permanent registration hadn't been processed yet. Brad ignored the temporary registration, even though he knew what it meant. He didn't think about how cars are bought every day and legally driven with temporary plates. A black woman, a luxury BMW, and a vehicle appearing registered to a dealership. Brad's mind reduced this to a single word: stolen. He didn't call the dealership, didn't check the temporary registration, didn't even bother considering another possibility. Brad approached the driver's side window. Without warning, he aimed his flashlight directly at Diane's face. Diane reflexively raised her hand, trying to shield her eyes from the light. "Ma'am, exit the vehicle immediately. Keep your hands where I can see them." Diane's professional confidence evaporated instantly, replaced by fear and confusion. "What's happening? I didn't do anything wrong. This BMW appears as a stolen vehicle in the system. You need to get out right now." "Wait, what?" Diane's voice rose. "This is my car. I bought it 3 days ago. All the paperwork is here in my bag. Don't reach for anything. You need to exit the vehicle immediately. You're under arrest on suspicion of vehicle theft." Diane's legal training kicked in. Stay calm. Don't resist. Don't escalate. Deal with it later. She opened the door slowly, stepped out carefully, stood where Brad directed her. Brad started searching her without explanation, rough and aggressive. Diane didn't resist. She stood motionless, kept her voice under control. "This is my car," Diane said, trying to keep her voice steady. "All the paperwork is in the car. Bill of sale, temporary registration, the dealer's contact information. Please just look." Brad closed the second handcuff without warning. "We'll check everything at the station." A man called out from the nearby gas station. "Hey, what's going on?" Brad turned. "Sir, step back. This is police business." The man kept approaching. He was an older white man. He'd been getting gas, watching. "I watched you pull her over. What did she do?" "This vehicle has been reported stolen." The man looked at Diane, looked at the BMW, looked back at Brad. "Did you even check her paperwork? Did you ask to see her registration?" "She's in custody. I'll check everything at the station." "No, that's not how this works," the man said. His voice was calm but firm. "You can't arrest someone for a stolen vehicle without verifying it's actually stolen. check her paperwork. It takes 2 minutes. Brad felt his authority being challenged. Sir, if you don't step back, I'll detain you for obstruction of police duties. The man raised his phone. I'm recording this. You've handcuffed a woman in business attire. You haven't checked her paperwork. You haven't called the dealership. What are you basing this arrest on? Probably just a computer system showing temporary registration. Brad noticed people were watching. 3 more customers at the gas station had pulled out their phones. The scene was now being recorded from multiple angles. Fine, Brad said. He walked to the BMW and looked inside, saw Diane's bag on the passenger seat. He didn't ask permission. He took the bag, pulled out her wallet, found her driver's license. Diane Matthews. Address matched. He found a folder of documents, pulled it out. On the first page was the bill of sale. Vehicle, BMW 540i. VIN number matching the car. Price, $68,500. Payment method, single payment, cash. Buyer, Diane Matthews. Purchase date, 3 days ago. There was a valid temporary registration document, valid for 45 days. Diane Matthews, listed as registered owner. Expiration date, 42 days from today. There was the dealer's business card. On it, a short handwritten note. Congratulations on your new car. Permanent plates will arrive in 7 to 10 days. Call me if you have any questions. There was even Diane's business card. Diane Matthews, federal judge, Phoenix District. Brad stood there, holding the paperwork. The evidence was now irrefutable. This was her car, legally purchased, properly registered with temporary plates. There was nothing stolen about it. But Brad had already arrested her. She was in handcuffs. Multiple people were recording. Now backing down meant admitting he was wrong in front of everyone. He walked back to Diane. This paperwork needs to be verified, he said, his voice no longer as confident. It's all there, Diane said. Everything you need is there. Bill of sale, temporary registration, the dealer's contact information, my business card showing who I am. Call the dealership right now. It'll take 2 minutes. I'll verify it at the station, he said. The man with the phone spoke again. Officer, there are clear documents showing she owns the car. You no longer have legal grounds to continue detaining her. Brad turned to him. I told you to step back. And I said I'm recording. You're violating her rights. She's provided documentation. You're still arresting her. Why? Brad didn't answer. Because there was no good answer he could give. The truth was uncomfortable. He'd seen a black woman in a luxury car and assumed theft. Now he couldn't admit he was wrong in front of everyone. Have you ever watched people dig themselves deeper because they can't admit they were wrong? Diane spoke, her voice now trembling with anger rather than fear. Officer, I'm a federal judge. I work for Morrison Strategic Group. I closed a $2 million deal yesterday. I paid cash for this car 3 days ago. I did nothing wrong, and I'm handcuffed in front of all these people. Why? Brad called for backup on his radio. I need assistance at the Shell station on Thomas Road. Diane closed her eyes. This was escalating. She knew how these situations could end. She'd read enough news stories, seen enough videos. Within 5 minutes, 2 more patrol cars arrived. 4 officers total. Brad explained the situation to the others, making it sound like Diane was being difficult, refusing to cooperate, causing a scene. One of the new officers, Sergeant Michael Torres, walked over to look at the paperwork Brad was holding. He read it carefully. Michael had 20 years of experience with the police force. He'd seen everything. He knew what temporary registration looked like. He also knew what racial profiling looked like. Brad, this is temporary registration. Completely legal, Michael said. She bought the car 3 days ago. Everything checks out. I still need to verify it, Brad insisted. Michael looked at Diane standing there in handcuffs, looked at the people recording on their phones, looked back at Brad. Remove the handcuffs. Now Michael said quietly, Sarge, I really think remove the handcuffs. Now, that's an order. Brad reluctantly removed the handcuffs. Diane rubbed her wrists where the metal had hurt. Michael turned to Diane. Ma'am, I apologize. You're free to go. This stop should never have happened. You committed no violation. Diane looked at Brad. I want your badge number. I want your supervisor's name. I'm filing a formal complaint. Brad's face flushed. This was just a routine traffic stop, he mumbled. No, Diane said, her voice now calm. This was racial profiling. You saw a black woman in a nice car and assumed it couldn't be possible. You didn't check my paperwork. You didn't call the dealership. You didn't verify anything. You didn't ask questions. You didn't verify. You just assumed. And now I've been humiliated in public, handcuffed in front of strangers, treated like a criminal for driving a car I worked 13 years to afford. Michael handed her his card. Ma'am, I encourage you to file that complaint. This stop was handled improperly. If you need any assistance with the complaint process, contact me directly. Diane took the card. She looked at Brad. All you had to do was ask to see my paperwork. That's all you had to do. Just ask. Instead, you made assumptions. And those assumptions were based on what I look like. That's racism, plain and simple. Brad started to protest, but Michael raised his hand. Officer Hutchins, return to your vehicle. I'll speak with you separately. Diane got back into her BMW. Her hands were shaking. She sat there for a moment before composing herself. The man who'd first challenged Brad approached her window. Ma'am, I sent you the video I recorded. I got your license plate number, looked up your company, and found your email on the website. Thought you might need it. Diane looked at him, surprised. Thank you. I don't even know your name. Robert Chen. I'm an attorney in Phoenix, real estate law. I've been watching this happen for years. Glad I could help. Diane thanked him again. She drove to her office in a daze, sat at her desk, stared at the wall. She'd worked so hard for that car, saved for years, finally bought herself something nice. And on the first day she owned it, she was treated like a criminal. She called her father, told him everything. He listened, then said, file the complaint. Get a lawyer. This isn't right. That afternoon, Diane contacted a civil rights attorney named Patricia Williams, who specialized in civil rights cases. Patricia watched the videos from the witnesses, reviewed the paperwork. This is a clear case of racial profiling and unlawful detention. You had valid registration. You provided documentation. He arrested you anyway. And you have multiple witnesses who recorded everything. This is very strong. Within 48 hours, the formal complaint was filed. The videos went viral. Consultant arrested for driving her own new car became a national story. The footage showed Brad stopping her, immediately arresting her, refusing to check her paperwork, ignoring the witness who challenged him. The response was massive. Business professionals across the country shared their stories of being profiled. Black executives, consultants, entrepreneurs rallied around Diane. Phoenix police had no choice but to investigate. Internal Affairs opened a case within a week. They interviewed Brad for 6 hours across 3 sessions. The interviews were brutal. Why did you stop, Miss Caldwell? The vehicle came back as registered to a dealership. Possible stolen vehicle. Did you see the temporary registration tag on the rear window? Yes. Do you know what temporary registration is?
Yes.
Did you consider that she might have just purchased the vehicle? I thought she might be using that as an excuse. On what basis? She seemed nervous. Was she nervous because you were arresting her? Did you check her paperwork before arresting her? No. Why not? I wanted to verify everything at the station. You arrested her without verifying whether the vehicle was actually stolen. I had probable cause based on the registration showing the dealership. Temporary registration showing a dealership is not probable cause. It's standard procedure after a purchase. Did you call the dealership to verify? No. Why not? Brad couldn't explain, because the truth was that he'd made an assumption based on race and acted without investigation. Investigators pulled Brad's history. 5 years with the force, 342 vehicle stops, 250 involved Black or Hispanic drivers. 93 of those resulted in searches. Only 11 searches found any contraband. Brad's pattern was clear and damning. He stopped people of color at nearly twice their population rate. He searched frequently. He rarely found evidence of actual crimes. 19 complaints had been filed against him over 5 years, 14 alleging racial profiling, all marked as unsubstantiated. No one had connected the dots until now. The investigation took 3 weeks. The findings were released publicly. Officer Brad Hutchins conducted an unlawful traffic stop of Diane Matthews without reasonable suspicion of any violation. Officer Hutchins observed temporary registration but failed to understand its legal significance. Officer Hutchins arrested Miss Matthews for driving a stolen vehicle without verifying the vehicle was stolen. Officer Hutchins refused to examine documentation proving ownership before making an arrest. Officer Hutchins demonstrated implicit racial bias in his assessment that a black woman driving a luxury vehicle must be involved in criminal activity. Officer Hutchins has a documented pattern of disproportionately stopping and searching people of color throughout his career. The recommendation was immediate termination. The Phoenix police chief accepted the recommendation. Brad Hutchins was fired 23 days after he arrested Diane for driving her own car. The civil rights lawsuit moved forward. Patricia Williams filed a comprehensive complaint. 4th Amendment violation for unlawful stop and arrest. 14th Amendment violation for racial discrimination, false imprisonment, intentional infliction of emotional distress against the city. Failure to train and supervise officers regarding temporary registration and racial profiling. The city's attorneys watched the videos, read the internal affairs report, reviewed Brad's history. They calculated the potential jury verdict. A successful business consultant. A brand new car she'd saved for years to buy. Clear documentation. Multiple videos from witnesses. A pattern of racial profiling. The settlement offer came within 6 weeks. $450,000. Diane countered with $750,000. They settled at $590,000. But Diane wanted more than money. She wanted change. The final settlement included mandatory reforms. All Phoenix police officers will complete 100 hours of training on lawful stops and temporary registration procedures. A specific training module on implicit bias in vehicle stops. Implementation of an early warning system, flagging officers with problematic stop patterns. Monthly public reporting of stop data by race, vehicle type, and outcome. A policy requiring officers to verify stolen vehicle claims before making an arrest. A dashboard notification system explaining temporary registration when plates are checked. Diane also negotiated something unique. She wanted to be part of the training at the academy. The city agreed. For the next year, Diane visited the police academy quarterly to speak to new recruits. She told her story. She explained what it felt like to be profiled. She showed the videos. She made them understand the human cost of assumptions. Some recruits were defensive. Some claimed she was exaggerating. But most understood the lesson. Assumptions based on appearance aren't policing. They're prejudice. The case became a teaching tool for police departments nationwide. Traffic stop training across the country started including Diane's case as an example of what not to do. The National Black MBA Association featured Diane's story in their advocacy work on workplace dignity and racial justice. Business organizations used her case to highlight broader issues of racial profiling of professionals. Diane continued working as a senior consultant. She still drives her BMW, still loves that car, still remembers what it represents. Years of hard work, sacrifice, and achievement. But she also remembers that morning when she stood in handcuffs, was treated like a criminal, had to prove she owned something she'd worked years to afford. She uses that memory, shares it, teaches with it, making sure Brad's mistake becomes a lesson for others. Brad Hutchins left Phoenix after his termination. He moved to a small town in Nevada and got a job in private security. He told people he was fired because of politics. He claimed the department threw him under the bus to appease activists. He never acknowledged that he'd racially profiled Diane. Never admitted his assumptions were wrong. Never apologized. He tried getting hired by other police departments in Nevada and Arizona. None would hire him. His termination for racial profiling made him unemployable in law enforcement. Diane Matthews was just driving her newly purchased car that morning, legally, deservedly, harming no one, but she was handcuffed because a uniform put an assumption ahead of the truth. This story isn't about a BMW. It's not about a police officer either. This story is about a question. When appearance replaces truth, who does the system work against? Brad Hutchins lost his job. The city paid millions. Procedures changed. Training was updated. But that moment Diane lived through. That morning when she was stopped, as if she were guilty, when she had to prove she deserved what she owned. No reform can take that back. Now the question is yours. Do you think this was justice or a mistake noticed too late? And more importantly, if no one had been recording, would we know this story today? Write your thoughts in the comments. This story doesn't end here on the authority error, because facts, unless spoken about, repeat themselves.